In the last lesson, we hit the limit of what we can do without coding. It's time for us to learn how to write code and connect that code to what we build in storyboarding. Before we get started writing code, I want to talk a little bit about a couple key programming concepts we'll need to know. The first is called object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming might sound scary if you're not familiar with it, but it's really just a style of programming that organizes your app into parts called objects. Each object performs specific duties within the app. One object can interact with another object and ask it to do things. An object can even create other objects using something called a class. A class is like a blueprint. It specifies what actions other objects can ask an object to do, and those actions are called methods. So to summarize, we've got three concepts in object-oriented programming that we need to understand before we can start writing code. That's objects, classes, and methods. Objects can do things called methods, and those methods are defined by the object's class. And I know that kind of all seems abstract right now, so let's take a look at it in terms of what we've already done in storyboarding in the last lesson. When we created our app in storyboarding in the last lesson, we went to the objects library and we dragged objects like a view controller, a button, and a label. When we did this, we were telling our app when it starts up it needs to create those objects. So the button is an object, the label is an object, and they're all contained in a view controller, which is also an object. When we start writing our code, we'll be able to write code for each one of these objects, and the objects will be able to talk back and forth to one another. But we need to know what those objects can do. How do we know what they're capable of? To know, we look at an object's class. The class is like a blueprint for the object, and it tells us everything the object can do. Apple gives us some great classes to start out with, and all those objects we got from the object library are created from Apple's classes. You can see the names of the classes for each object by clicking on the object in the object library and looking at the info pop-up view. Apple also gives us great documentation so we know what each class does, and we'll look at that documentation a little later. It's important to note that not all classes are necessarily user interface elements like buttons and labels. There are also classes like NSNumber for numbers and NSString, which is just a string of characters like a word or paragraph. If we don't like a class the way it is, we can also create our own classes using Apple's classes as a base. So if we want a special button that changes from a square into a circle when the user presses it, we could create our own class to do that. So when we're making an app, we're going to create a bunch of objects that will work together to make our app function. We'll have some button objects, we'll have some label objects, we'll have some view controller objects, and a few more. So let's talk about how these objects are going to communicate with each other and how we're going to tell them what to do. We'll do that with the iPhone's programming language, which is called Objective-C. When you're programming an iPhone app, all you're doing is telling the iPhone what to do. But you have to be able to do that in a language that the iPhone can understand. Unfortunately, I just can't type "make the screen black" when the user presses a button, because the iPhone doesn't understand plain English. The language that the iPhone does understand is called Objective-C. So to tell the iPhone what to do, we have to learn to speak that language. So let's do that now. Here's a line of real Objective-C code. Button set hidden true. Can you guess what it does? If you guess that it hides a button, you're right. Let's break down this line of code. Objective-C messages are enclosed in brackets and end in a semicolon. The first part of the message is the object. In this case, that's the button. The second part tells the object what to do, and that's called the method. In this case, the method is set hidden, and it's telling the button, which is the object, that it needs to do something called set hidden. Some methods need more information on what they should do. This is called an argument. In this case, the argument is true, but we could just as easily put false if we wanted the button to not be hidden. Some methods take multiple arguments. Here's one where we set the title for a button state. And some methods don't take any arguments, like button current title. Also notice the convention of the upper and lowercase letters. In general, objects and methods start with lowercase letters and classes start with uppercase letters. The word true here isn't actually a class or an object, but sort of a special case. since it's a unique option that can only be true or false. So to get started with Objective-C, let's think about it in terms of a car object. Suppose I'm creating a game that included a custom class for a car. If I want to rev the engine and that car object speaks Objective-C, what would I type? Probably something like car rev engine, where the car is the object and rev engine is the method. What if I wanted to tell my car to drive home at the speed limit? It would probably be something like car drive home at speed limit. As long as I knew that my car could understand the rev engine method and the drive home at speed method, this is what I would do. So how could I find out if my car understands these methods and what other methods my car can understand? To do that, I would look at the class definition to see what methods the car has. The class definition is contained in the class's .h or header file. Here's the header file for the car. These are all the methods that my car can understand. I see the rev engine and drive home at speed method, as well as some other methods. But what's with this void and int in parentheses? Sometimes an object that's messaging the car might want to get back information from the car. What if we want to ask the car its current speed? I need to know what type of information I'm going to get back. Is it going to be a word like 75 miles per hour, or is it just going to be a number? The section in parentheses tells us that. If we send the car current speed, we get the speed back in the form of an int, which is an integer. If we send the method car rev engine, we'll get back void, which means the method doesn't give anything back. There are also parentheses over here where the parameters are. Just like we need to know what type of information the car will give us back when we ask it for something, we also need to know what type of information to give to the car. So we can see if we want to set a car's speed to the integer 72, we can tell the car drive home at speed 72. Now take a look at the driver name method. It looks like this method gives us back an NS string. A string is just a collection of characters, so it can be one letter, it can be a word, or it can be a paragraph. But what's with the NS? All classes you write and all the classes Apple gives you usually have a 2 or 3 letter prefix. The prefixes are a way to keep code separate. Remember when we started out our first app, we typed in TAD for the App Dojo as a class prefix? That's so if I want to write my own string class, it will automatically be called TAD string. Apple's class is called NS string. If no one put prefixes and we both wrote a class called string, our app wouldn't know which class to use. I called this class TAD car, so if someone comes along after me and writes another car class, our car classes won't get confused. And now, what's with that star character? The star character is something you'll see in method names when you're dealing with objects. It indicates something called a pointer, which is the location in the iPhone's memory where the object information is located. The address of that exact location isn't really important to us currently though. And if you're new to programming and that all sounds kind of confusing, then for now, you can just know that if you see the star character, it means you're dealing with an object. Now we're almost ready to write some code. We just need to cover one more thing, and that's variables. If you're new to programming, a variable will just allow us to store information to use later while the app is still running. And declaring a variable just tells our app, hey, we're going to be using this variable, and this is what type of variable it is. So if we want to declare an NSString variable called name, we could do something like this. NSString star name. This line of code doesn't have brackets around it because we're not messaging an object. We're just declaring a variable. Notice the star I put before the name. I did that because NSString is an object. An integer is not an object. So I could just declare an integer like this. The star for objects is only necessary when declaring the variable. If I want to use the name later to store some information like driver name of our car, I could type this. Name equals car driver name. Now name holds the string that is the driver name of our car. If I want, I could also combine everything into one line and write NSString name car driver name. If somewhere down the line I have a second car object called car2, and I want to set the driver name of the second car to be the same as the first car, I would write car2 set driver name name. So now think about how you would write your own code. Suppose you have two car objects, car1 and car2. What would you do if you wanted to get the speed of car1 and have car2 drive home at that speed? First, you would declare a variable, int speed. Then you would get the current speed of car1 using speed equals car1 current speed. And then you would set car2 speed using the drive home at speed method. So now let's try writing our own code in Xcode. Open the Lesson 3 project that comes bundled with the App Dojo lessons. This is a project that I've set up to make it easy to get started with Objective-C. I've already set up a car object like we just talked about. Here's the car's header file. An object can talk to the car through any of these methods. Let's run the project just to see what we've got. We've got a car that's at a school in the upper left corner of the screen and a house in the lower right corner of the screen. Now let's start making the car do things by writing code. We'll do that in the tadviewcontroller.m file. Scroll down to the space I've marked for your code. If we want to make the car rev its engine, what would we do? Going back to the tadcar.h header file, we can see that the car understands the rev engine method. So we know that we could type car rev engine. So let's see what happens. Great. Now, what if we want to make the car drive home? Let's add car drive home at speed 2. Now run the app. The car revs its engine and slowly moves towards the house. Now, what if I want to set the driver's name? You can probably guess what I would do. Looking at the tadcar.h file, we have set driver name method. So we can type car set driver name. Now, what's with the at and the quotation marks? This is a shorthand way of creating an NSString object. As we know by looking at the setDriver'sName method in tadcar.h file, setDriver'sName takes an NSString object as an argument. If I just wrote out the name without the quotation marks and the at symbol, Xcode thinks there's an error because it thinks that this is a variable. So we need to create an NSString object that has a string of characters that spells out a name. The shorthand way of doing this is with the at sign and closing the characters you want in parentheses. So let's see what happens now. Great. So now I want to hide our car and just see the two buildings. It won't make sense to rev the engine and drive home and set the name, so I'm going to delete the code we've written so far. And I'm just going to type car set hidden yes. This is similar to one of the first lines we looked at when we were talking about Objective-C. Now we can run the project. And we can see that our car's disappeared. But why did our car understand the method setHidden? SetHidden isn't in the tadcar.h file. The answer is here. This UI view indicates that tadcar is a subclass of UI view. So the car can do everything that UI view can do. UI view is one of Apple's classes. So to see what UI view can do, we can hold down the option button and click on the word UI view to open a short summary of what UI view is. If we want to see the full documentation, we can click on the book icon. So this is everything that UI view can do, and down here is every method that UI view can understand. And since our car class is a subclass of UI view, it can understand methods like drawRect and add subview. The method we just used was setHidden, and that's actually not listed here, but hidden is listed as a property. If a class has a property like hidden, it automatically has two methods to set and get the property. So in this case, the setter method is setHidden. The getter property is normally just the name of the property, but here we have a special one defined as isHidden. There are also some properties that are read-only, like this layer property. Since it's read-only, it will only have a getter and it can't be set. So for this app, I provided you with a custom car class that I wrote in a project that had everything set up to make it easy to get started with Objective-C. There are still a few loose ends that we need to tie up, like why did we choose to write code here in the viewDidLoad method inside the tadViewController.m file. We'll talk about that in the next lesson, where I'm going to show you how to start from scratch writing your own app using Apple's classes and modifying them to do what we want. For the challenge for this lesson, I have a few questions you should try to answer. Number 1. I want to add a new method to the tadcar class that will return the manufacturer name of the car. What would that method definition look like in the tadcar.h file? Number 2. I want to add a new method to the tadcar class that will set the number of passengers in the car. What would that method definition look like in the .h file? For those two questions, the name of the method isn't very important. Whatever you want to name it is fine. What is important is how you write it out and where you add it to the .h file. Number 3. Using our car object in the Lesson 3 project, I want to save the driver name in a variable called savedName. Then I want to find out how many characters are in the driver's name. And I want to save that number of characters in